So you might say something like, you know what, George, that makes total sense. It sounds like this isn't a good time. Would it be okay if I just took 30 seconds to tell you why I called? And if after it doesn't make sense.
What? Hey man, my wife's going into labor. Right now is not a good time. Dude, totally get it. Congratulations on the new kid. But if I could just get 30 seconds of your time. Hey guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be doing another reaction video. You guys seem to like these, so make sure you leave us a comment down below if you want to see more of these. Today I went on YouTube and I typed in cold calling and I looked at videos uploaded in the last year, and we found my man here, Sales Insight Lab by Marc Wayshak. Now I gotta warn you, I'm not sure if he's just related to Tony Robbins or if he smokes a pack a day. His voice is a little raspy. But we're gonna hop into this one. This one's about 8 minutes long. And this one's how to crush any cold calling objection. So let's get to it.
If you're making cold calls or you're making any type of prospecting call, chances are you're dealing with a lot of objections. You're going to get a lot of resistance, and that's okay. That's part of making dials. That's part of prospecting calls. Because let's just put yourself in the shoes of your prospect. They receive a phone call from a stranger that they don't know. Obviously, they're going to push back. They're going to have objections. They're going to try to get off the phone. But successful salespeople aren't afraid of that. Successful salespeople, in fact, embrace the objections that are coming their way, and they're prepared for it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to crush any cold calling objection.
Now, it sounds like his larynx has been crushed, but I'm still with him. Good little opener here, Marc. Let's see what you got.
Check it out. Number one, have a call script to avoid objections in the first place. This is a really important.
I don't know that a call script is going to help you avoid objections because those come from the person, but we'll see where he's going with this. I don't mind having a call script. That's actually a good idea.
Important idea, because even though it's not dealing with objections per se, it's allowing you to avoid objections in the first place. And so here's the thing, is that a weak call script is going to get a lot more objections than an effective call script. That means that you want to have a strong call script, and it's good and it's tight and it's not full of meandering ums and ahs where you're trying to make out what you're saying next. You need to have a script in place, because half of salespeople are just making calls without any idea of what they're going to say when they get that person on the call.
I would agree. That is a good point. Most people do just hop on a cold call. They have no idea what they're going to say, and they don't have anything planned. So script and structured approach is actually a really good idea. So we're off to a good start.
And so as a result, they just mumble on, and the prospect is like, how do I get myself the hell off this call? So having a strong call script in the first place is going to do a lot to actually help you avoid objections in the first place. Number two.
That's good. Absolutely. And if you need help creating a call script, I can help you do that. Just reach out to us. Go to coachcarroll.com or shoot me an email, dj@coachcarroll.com. I can set up a call with you. We can craft you a script based on whatever industry you're in or your service or your product you're offering to help you make sure. And what I think my man Marc here was trying to say is with a proper script, you're going to be saying things in a way that it doesn't allow the prospect to have objections. I don't necessarily agree with that, because there's always going to be pushback on a cold call. The only way that you can get better at that is practice. And what I do is I actually have my salespeople write down a list of all the objections they could possibly think of, so that they have an answer, or what they call a rebuttal to that objection, kind of in their pocket. It's not necessarily in your script, but you have a list of all these objections that could come up and your rebuttal to that objection. Let's see what number two is.
Know what's coming when. Because a prospecting call is a pretty short.
You know what I just thought of, Andy? You remember the guy that was on Sci-Fi that was like would channel people, and like he would go out into the audience, and like he was like a clergy or whatever they would call it. I can't remember the clairvoyance. It's like, know what's coming when.
Engagement with a prospect. You know, it's only a couple of minutes in most cases. It can go on, but typically it's a couple of minutes.
That's right.
And most of the objections are going to come up early on in the call. So it's very structured, and there's a lot of predictability to what's going to happen on that call. In fact, realistically, when we are having our clients script out their prospecting calls, there's only a couple of obvious areas where they're going to get a lot of pushback. Obviously, at the very beginning of the call, you're going to have some very likely objections. So an example of knowing what's coming when, a very common objection early on is the prospect answers the phone, salesperson says a few things, and then the prospect determines that it's likely a salesperson, and they're like, hey, you know what, this isn't a good time. I really can't take this call right now. Could you try me back later? That's a really likely scenario. And so by knowing what's coming when,
The problem is, though, you just say yes and ask for a good time to call back. I've never been one to really push. Like, I don't like being one call. I don't even like the attempt of a one call close. I remember one time a sales guy, a marketing guy called me. He reached out to me like on Instagram or LinkedIn, and he was like, hey man, I have a program, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested. Let's get on a call. We get on a call. We get to the end of it, and like it's a cold call. I'd never talked to this guy before, and like we get to the end of it, and it's like it's $10,000. Do you want to put that on a Visa, Amex? What do you want? I was like, oh, it's like that. You're just gonna try to hardcore close me, right? And like no laughing, no nothing. He goes, no man, I'm just not bullshitting. Are we doing business or not? And Andy's laughing because it's so funny. I literally told the guy, I asked him, I said, does that work for you? It was almost like one of the corniest pickup lines, like at the bar, you see these guys, I saw on Instagram the other day, a guy like was trying to pick up a chick showing her his bank account balance. Like you just, no, dude, we doing business or not? Like those hardcore tactics, they worked like back in the 60s and the 70s, but they just don't work anymore. So while this guy is, saying be prepared, know what's coming when, I get that, but what the hell are you supposed to do about it? If the prospect says, hey, it's not a good time for me, the last thing I'm going to tell my client to do is, well, go into the pitch. Let's get them, Leroy. They're on the phone. So that one was a little sticky.
You are going to be ready for those objections. And so you really want to map out what are the most likely areas that you're going to get that pushback. And so if you've made prospecting calls before, you know where they come.
This guy's voice is like really hard to listen to. It's like scratchy. It's making my eyes water.
Right. They tend to come at the beginning, sometimes in the middle, and then very often at the end when you go to try to schedule a next step.
So basically the whole fucking call, you're going to have objections.
And so knowing where they're coming and when they're coming and exactly what's likely to come, now you can be prepared.
There you have it, kids. All you got to know is exactly what the guy's going to say, when he's going to say it, and you'll be great at cold calling too. Jesus Christ.
Number 3, script out contingencies. And so now that you know what are the key objections that are coming, now it's time to actually script out the biggest contingencies.
I'm going to fast forward because we just talked about that. You have a script. Contingencies are like, well, what if these objections come up? You need to know what to say to them. We'll go forward.
In dealing with objection, concise way. The first step of any contingency is to acknowledge what they just said. So let's take the beginning of the call. You start the call and the prospect says, you know what, this just isn't a good time. Could you try me later? The first thing that you have to do in scripting out your contingency is acknowledge what the person just said. If you just immediately come back with something hardcore, they're going to be pretty turned off. So by acknowledging
like the HubSpot, how about tomorrow?
Acknowledging what they say, you might say something like, you know what, that sounds totally fair. Sounds like this isn't a good time.
That's actually a good tip. I always like the word great. It's like, DJ, I don't like bald people. Great, man. I don't like bald people either. It's just genetics. Can we have a meeting next Wednesday, or does next Thursday work better for you? It's always great, awesome, fantastic. No matter what their objection is, you want to come back to them with something that's positive, because it also just kind of throws them off a little bit.
And so now by acknowledging what they just said, you're going to lower their guard. And so that's a big part of actually scripting out that contingency. And then after you've acknowledged what they said, now you want to have a way to buy just a little bit more time. With prospecting calls, you're basically going 30 seconds to 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds more that you get with a prospect, the more likely you are to be successful. So you might say something like, you know what, George, that makes total sense. It sounds like this isn't a good time. Would it be okay if I just took 30 seconds to tell you why I called? And if after it doesn't make sense.
What? Hey man, my wife's going into labor. Right now is not a good time. Dude, totally get it. Congratulations on the new kid. But if I could just get 30 seconds of your time to tell you about this Amway soap, I promise you're going to want to buy it. This is not a good tip. If a prospect is busy, be respectful of their time. I'm I always say sell like you want to be sold to. You don't want somebody trying to blister over the top of you. And look, I get it. He's trying to get through to make sure that they're setting the appointment, yada, yada, yada. But if you have a proper CRM, customer relationship management software, we actually recommend Pipedrive. You can go to coachcarroll.com/Pipedrive if you want a free trial of that software. That helps you keep track of your follow-up game. So if you're a true professional, when someone says, hey, call me next Thursday, right now it's not a good time, it's like, hey, dude, no problem. Next Thursday, I'll give you a call at the same time, talk to you then. Now, it's kind of like a pressure cooker. Like you don't push in on the first try. Now, if you call 3, 4, 5, 6 times and the prospect continually is pushing you off, we add a little more pressure each time and we work our way up. Because again, if this dude really is in the middle of crises, it's just not a good time. It's funny, I'll tell you guys a quick story. I had a State Farm agent I cold called one time. I got on the phone with him. He took my call. He knew a client that we had worked with. I mentioned I did a name drop. It got me a couple of seconds, and the guy said, hey, dude, I got to call you right back. Someone just drove through, someone just had a wreck in the front of my office. And I was like, okay. And he hung up. I was like, yeah, he just wanted to get off the call. He'll never call me back. 15 minutes later, he called me. He's like, dude, the lady literally ran into like the front of my office. Like, I no shit. It was crazy. So again, if the prospect tells you it's not a good time, be respectful of that. No one wants to deal with an asshole salesperson that's just pushy. Because here's the thing, right? I would rather risk not being able to get them back on the phone and slowly cranking up the pressure to then get the client or not get the client versus what this guy's trying to do. And it could be a really good prospect, but if you push too much in the beginning or on that first call, it could completely ruin the relationship. The guy could say, hey man, I'm not interested at all.
We could just hang up. Sound fair? That's a pretty gutsy line, but what you're going to find is that by using something like that scripted out contingency, now they're like, all right, fine, 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds, go. And so now you've bought yourself that 30 seconds, and you're so much more likely to make it to that next step as opposed to just acquiescing with the prospect when they're like, this isn't a good time. And what most salespeople say is, oh, okay, well, when would be a good time to try you back? And the person doesn't really want to have them call back. They're just trying to hide. They're trying to get off the damn phone. So have those contingencies, play hardball, be assertive. Number 4.
The only difference with that, though, is that when they get off the phone and you follow up and you follow up and you follow up, it actually shows that you're serious. You know how many people are out there just trying to make one call closes, and they're not real salespeople. I actually rather play the long game with my prospects because I'm trying to build clients for life. And again, we got a video on the channel talking about how to connect with people in 90 seconds. If someone says it's not a good time, just take it at that. We're only 4 in. This is long.
Make it a game. Now, when I first started my first business, which was a marketing business selling to small business owners, I was making a lot of dials. And what I would constantly do was make it a game. Make it fun. Have fun with the calls. And so I never took what the prospect said personally. I always thought of it as if I was getting into a football game and it was a full contact sport and we were just sparring. We're just going back and forth. And by doing that, by taking the personal part out of it, it actually became a lot more fun. And so when the prospect said something and they were being tough or cranky or difficult or angry, I was instead cool as a cucumber because to me it was just a game and I was just responding to what they were saying and I was never getting fazed. By making your calls a game, even when your prospect yells at you or gets furious as a result of something that chances are had nothing to do with you but had probably something to do with someone else and they're just taking it out on you, by making it a game and by diffusing it, a lot of times you can get opportunities back on track.
I actually like this one. Good job, Mark. This is very important. Most people have a fear of cold calling because they're afraid of what the prospect's going to say. They're afraid of that like refusal or being denied, and they just can't take that. Their egos can't take that. The more you can make it a game, the more successful you'll be. This is a great tag. You know, one of my favorite things to do, I'll give you guys a little tip. If you ever get hung up on, one of the easiest ways to make it a game is to call the person back. And so like if I'm talking to Andy and Andy goes, click, I'm going to call Andy back, and when he answers the phone, he goes, yeah, this is Andy. I'm saying, hey, Andy, it's DJ again. I think we got disconnected. And what that dude's going to do is he's going to go through the roof. No, you SOB, I actually hung up on you. And he's going to hang up on again. But you're going to get the last laugh because you're showing that person that them hanging up on you didn't have any effect. So
really important. Make it a game. Don't take L's. When it comes to a prospecting call, if you've got a live one, right, and we've all been on a call.
So this one's, he's saying, remember, you got nothing to lose. I'm going to fast forward just a tad bit for sake of time here. We're running a little long-winded. But yeah, you got nothing to lose. That's the fear, taking away the fear of the cold call.
Interviewing, nothing to lose. And by taking that pressure off of you, it makes dealing with prospecting call objections so much easier, because when you get those objections, you're not thrown off by it. You're not phased. You're not taking yourself too seriously. Instead, you're just having fun, because that's one of the key parts to dealing with objections in these prospecting calls is if you care just a little bit less, it's actually going to make you so much more effective. Just play with it.
That's true. I tell Jared, my main guy, he's my top dialer. I tell him all the time, dude, don't take it serious. Like, act like you don't care. I don't care if you do business or not. Listen, Karen, I'm calling you to help you because you're wasting your advertising dollars. You want to blow me off? No problem. You'll keep wasting your money. Doesn't affect me. Doesn't affect my bank account. You gotta have to have that attitude, that chip on your shoulder, that they're not gonna hurt you. I've never been hurt by a no, and a prospect has never eaten me. So there's nothing to be fearful of. I think that was the last one, Andy. He just goes to the closeout here, how to crush objections. So Mark, not too bad. Definitely better than HubSpot. You can tell this guy's had some experience doing cold call. That's a terrible, terrible face I'm leaving him on there, but that's what we're going to end it with. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, the reaction video. Let me know. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. We'll catch you in the next one. Here's to your success. Hey guys, it's Coach Carroll. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you click right here to subscribe to the channel to be notified when we drop new videos. Over here's the video that I recommend you watch next. And last but not least, over here you can click to get my free book, Phenomenal Phone Calls. We'll see you in the next video. Here's to your success.